What is up, everyone? It is time for another Omi is My Homie episode. Dr. Stuff is out in Lisbon, Portugal for the Veve event, and so he probably won't be joining us tonight. But we do have the one, the only, real Randy Chavez joining us. Let me welcome him to the stage. Randy.
Oh, I didn't get it up in time. I was just going to have the little turtle duck. Hey, guys, how's it going?
Yes. What's so funny is how big Dashy is in real life. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He looks kind of small and stuff. No, he's a beast. And he's the size of a real Doberman pinscher. And there's some weight to him. I love Randy's story of him taking Dashy on the plane.
Good time.
Crazy.
I got a lot of attention in the airport that day. Some good, some bad.
I bet. So Abe says he's the proud owner of another 3 million Omi. Way too easy. Good job. Zoe Chen with the super chat. Heard of Vault Value app? Great app tracking value, wish list. I use to check prices, plan purchases. Should be talked about more. Veve should partner. I don't know. What do you think about Vault Value?
Vault Value in general, it's a metric. To see how, mostly every now and then something gets manipulated, something that you own is worth, stuff gets delisted and it's worth, like $10,000 and it's not a real thing because you own like 6 of them. But Vault Value, again, it's good for sentiment. Well, I mean, if it's down, it's bad for sentiment. And I think people tend to get a little, it's very hard to trust because if you have a Vault Value that's like worth 100K, but all of your stuff is sub 100 and all of your stuff is like high quality stuff.
It's not going to reflect it because it can't factor in low mint numbers for extra price. It just goes off the floor.
But then Vault Value on the other end, it's like, yeah, my stuff's worth, like 30K, 50K, whatever. But then it's like, well, that's at the floor. And how many of your items are like, that's not a real floor. That's just what the floor is right now before somebody actually wants to sell. And if you want to sell in a hurt, like if you floor an item and put it like a $1 or $2 or X amount of percent below, it'll sell eventually. But if you need to like sell, you need to put that like 10-20% below and get it done quickly. Now it's easier with Stacker because you don't have to put it, you don't have to worry about putting it, you can still put it down like that 10%, but you don't have to take another 10% off to cash out because it's done in Omi. So that really helps.
Yes. All right, let's see. Kuma asks, what's up, gentlemen? Veve Zombie in the house. Bill Gardner, what's up, brother? All right. Good evening, Kevin Hawthorne. Good evening from Lakeland, Florida. Not buying on Stacker, though.
There's a lot of people buying on Stacker, though.
Yeah. So imperfect markets, so part of Vault Values challenges, it's still early markets. Like the more mature a market gets, the more Vault Value is going to work. So especially while there's low liquidity on things, it won't be as accurate, but it does give you an indication of what's happening with your values. I like that. All right. So maybe 30 people buying on Stacker. Numbers aren't huge yet, but like the truth is, we're before the major bull run. And think about when the Veve app launched, say 4 months or 5 months before March of 2021, how much activity was going on the Veve app? Not much, right? Not much at all. So bear markets, right, before the bigger run, it's not surprising that tons of people aren't using Stacker yet. The metric is when the bull runs in full swing, will people be using Stacker? My guess is yes.
So there's I guess where do you want to go with this first? Do you want to go with it where will an alt season bull run happen, or do you want to go with it where I feel like we should do that first and then get into
let's have that conversation, because you and I were talking offline before the show today, and you're hearing that from more and more people. So what is it you're hearing?
I'm hearing from people that are generally intelligent and successful in many aspects of their life, and it's kind of like their first and this bear market is, has been rough.
First
So
bull run that they've been prepared for. In other words, that they've been around during the bear market. So it's their first time at this part of the cycle having made purchases during the bear market.
Yeah, and there's been several people, and some of them are a little more credible than others, that I've been like sent their tweets, or I've just been hearing, like actually seeing on Twitter, where it says like, hey, be advised, retail's not in. Like, Bitcoin's trading at these levels not because of retail, it's because of these institutions, these hedge funds, even VCs. And now even you have, like, there's a bunch of headlines that BlackRock's dumping their Bitcoin. Like, they sold a super small percentage of what they have. Like, that's true, they have sold, and they've been bought. If they were selling a certain amount of Bitcoin and that same amount was being bought in ETH, I'd be like, okay, they're selling this much Bitcoin and they're buying like this much ETH. So the net is still positive. One, it's still positive for Bitcoin because a lot is just being sucked up than being sold, and then there's a lot more people buying Ethereum. But the argument is that it's only institutions and retail, which has been kind of double bounced there. They got double pounded in the face, where they didn't just have a not so great year in the stock market. They didn't not so great year with inflation, although a lot of that's coming down now. The tariff war has been not kind to the middle class's pockets. So not only is retail not getting all of these gains on Bitcoin, for the past 14,000 to now, like, not only are they not doing that, but they typically don't have as much money as they would have in the last kind of pre-bull, where everyone was getting those $1,200 checks. Everyone, and now it seems that they might not have enough money to invest, and that way retail is not taking profits and putting into alts, and that's the supposed reasoning why I see a lot of these people saying the alt run will not happen.
Yeah. So many people are saying it must be right?
It seems that, again, some people are like, well, they could entertain the idea, and like, well, I guess it's possible, and anything's possible in crypto. But I haven't seen anyone with a ton of credibility, at least not in the crypto space, that has backed this idea. I have seen a fair amount of people, and granted, just because you have 600 followers doesn't mean that you don't know your stuff. It's very possible that they do. Maybe their old account got hacked or whatever, it's a new one. Or maybe they're really smart and they're just not active on Twitter. But I haven't seen anyone with massive credibility get behind this. It doesn't mean it's not true, but that's just, again, what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So my feelings on no altcoin run is that's the same thing I heard in 2019 and 2020. There wouldn't be an altcoin run. It was just going to be Bitcoin only, and all these justifications as to why that was going to happen. I knew a guy that was stocking up on CryptoPunks in early 2020, and people were telling him he was crazy, that it was a 2017 thing and it would never happen. Who cares? They're just JPEGs on the blockchain. Who cares about them? And so I would actually be concerned that there would be no altcoin run if everyone was certain it was going to happen. Because remember, like 89% of people do poorly in crypto. So this sentiment is catching a lot of traction with those that are newer in this space, that altcoin season is not going to happen. And they're making all these arguments as to why retail doesn't have money. And last time they had stimulus checks and they put it in. And so no altcoin rally. Okay, those stimulus checks went into Dogecoin and Bitcoin, really. A little bit of it into XRP. So how did that cause other altcoins to run? Just because, like, what happens is people get in, as Bitcoin goes crazy, people start to feel like the price is too high and they don't want to get into Bitcoin. So they look for alternatives. And they start doing research on fundamentals on projects. It becomes this boom of like, what hasn't pumped yet that's really solid? And then that starts to pump and it gets even more traction, and that blows up. And then it rolls into some other things. And this all happens over like a 6 to 8 week period where all these action in the altcoins happen. And it's going to happen again. I'm glad so many people are saying it's not going to happen. I would be concerned if everyone was like, yes, we're definitely having an altcoin season. That would concern me. The people who are saying it's not going to happen, they don't concern me at all. They're just wrong. And they don't know how wrong they are. And I know they're making these cases and they have all these little logic things that they're piecing together that makes it seem like it could happen. It's not what's going to happen. Rain, what if you're wrong? You know, every once in a great while I'm wrong. I'm not wrong on this. It's still going to play out because fundamentally strong projects, they're just strong business cases. There's business cases for why these projects are going to do well. Money is going to flow to them like crazy because business people are going to recognize, oh my gosh, digital collectibles are the future. What is the token behind these digital collectibles? OMI, massive money coming to them. Other things like DEVVE, there's a use case for what they're doing that's strong. Guess what? Massive money will flow to really strong product market fits, really strong, fundamentally strong projects. It is what's going to happen because there's business strength behind it. Now, XYZ random altcoin that has no fundamentals to it, yeah, who knows what will happen? That maybe it goes up, maybe it doesn't at all. So I have no idea. Those aren't the kind of altcoins we're talking about. Sure, some people make the case, oh my gosh, well, in 2021, there was only 40,000 altcoins, and now there's like 2 billion altcoins. So it's like, oh, there's just too many, and they're not going to come. It's like, look, there's so much crap. But we're talking about substantive altcoins, and they're still going to pump. I have no idea what happens to the crap out there. But things that have fundamentally strong business appeal, they're going to do great. Again, perhaps this cycle even better than we saw in 2021. Because we will see such a flood of money coming in the market. Bitcoin is probably going to break through its trend, where if it goes to above 185,000, we're probably entering a super cycle for Bitcoin, and even more money than generally flows in during the 4-year cycle will flow in. And that could drive Bitcoin to higher prices, and the altcoins will probably do an additional 4x over what the strong altcoins were going to do anyway. So a lot of people make these things, I don't know, they make these guesses at what's going to happen, and it catches traction. Oh my gosh, what if? And again, they don't know what they're talking about. First question to ask as you're reviewing them is like, okay, has this person made millions of dollars trading crypto or investing in crypto? Oh, they have not. Okay, so where's their credibility at? Oh, they have a YouTube channel. Okay, so how many followers they have? Oh, interesting. Okay, who cares? Like, I could have a really big YouTube channel. If I just covered whatever everyone was talking about every single day on YouTube, my YouTube channel would have over 1 million followers. That's fantastic. You know, when Doge is going up, if I just covered Doge every day, it's like, why Doge is going to $1 million? I'd have a really big YouTube following. Now, my audience would do terrible in that environment, but I would have a really big YouTube following, and, you know, I'd get lots of advertising revenue and fantastic. I would do great. My audience would do terrible. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here as an investor who happens to have a YouTube channel, and I'm just sharing what I see. And, you know, last cycle went really good for me. I was really prepared. The positions I took, everyone told me how dumb and how wrong I was, and I was right, and they were wrong. And I made millions of dollars, and they didn't. So I've got it all back on the table. My money's behind all these bets that I'm talking about. Why? Because I know not every single one of my bets is going to play out good, but the majority of them will. And the ones that do are going to have outsized returns. And one of my biggest bets is OMI, which is what we're here. OMI is my homie. And like, people that say OMI's not going to make it, they just don't know what they're talking about. Veve's fundamentals, like this idea of digital collectibles, is a superior narrative. It's one of the most superior narratives in the crypto space, because digital collectibles bring some additional value over physical collectibles. In some ways, they're superior than physical collectibles. And a bunch of collectors over time are going to transition to digital collectibles. And some people that have never been collectors before are going to be like, you know what, this idea of digital collectibles makes sense to me. So there's going to be a huge growing audience there that will really cascade when the bull run starts. And so Veve collectibles will go crazy. And then people will ask, what's the token associated with Veve? Oh, a OMI token. And OMI's going to go crazy. And just because some people don't agree, That's okay. They just don't understand why it's going to happen this way. But like people, if you tried to make the case that Bitcoin was a superior store of value to gold in 2013, 9 out of 10 people told you were dumb and crazy and it was never going to be a thing and you were an idiot. And yet the world has transitioned to this idea of, you know what, in some ways, a store of value, Bitcoin is superior to gold. And that argument's been won. Well, it's not too different, this idea of digital collectibles over physical collectibles. And Veve's in the lead position for providing that. In the coming bull run, their token is going to do great.
So I have a couple questions on this. One, have you seen the new Netflix movie called Nonas?
Mm-mm.
Vince Vaughn plays this in like the first few minutes of the movie, like this young Italian kid, and then as he gets older, it's like, okay, my Nona passed away, my mom passed away, and he has this really great idea of like, hey, what's like the best meal like you ever had? And everyone's just like, oh, my grandma used to make this great stromboli. She used to make this great, these great dishes. No one could cook like your grandma. And he has this idea to make an Italian restaurant with nothing but Nonas, nothing but grandmas. And the food is excellent. It's got prime real estate, but there's a guy there that his friend was once owner of the restaurant he took over. And he's telling all the people not to go there. And I feel like that sounds fairly familiar, where Veve has this great idea. They gross like $560,000 in the month of May. Granted, that's Star Wars month, but still, they did a lot, doing more than anyone else in the digital collectible space out there right now. But they have these fudders that like, and again, you're talking about investors. Okay, it's easy to see, Bitcoin cycle, altcoin cycle from 13, 17, 21. There's a pattern there. NFTs don't yet have that pattern. And when they go to look into it, they say, okay, there is, and we'll get to the token side on the founders in a bit, but they go and they take a look at it. They look on socials and they see nothing but the fudders. Now, granted, they'll see people like us, they'll see generally cooler headed people. But there's a lot of people that don't understand cycles, and they bought at the top and now it's at the bottom. Like, despite the company doing very well, they just say like, it's a scam, it's horrible, the token won't do anything, it's a slow rug. Obviously, a discerned investor will be able to read in between the lines, because a good leader or a good investor knows to believe half of only what he hears, but a discerned investor knows which half to believe. So obviously you'll have these people that do this, but when there is these, tens of thousands of tokens, like I understand last time there was only 40,000 tokens, but not all of them were good. Now you do have other legitimate projects, like the amount of legitimate projects out there have increased at such a commensurate rate as the rate of shit tokens out there, that there is a lot to choose from. And for anyone that's been bored at Netflix at home one day, is like, hey, it was much easier to pick a movie back when you just had a collection of VHS tapes and DVDs. Now there's so much options, you don't know what to pick. And I feel like that's human psychology. When there's more than a couple of options, you don't know what to pick. And now that there's so many legitimate tokens out there, how does Veve go into that, market themselves in a way where you can say, hey, ignore the fudders? I mean, but there is some truth to what they say, like the token's done nothing but go down in 3 years. And again, you can defend against that all you want. It's just a very hard place to get out of. Like in baseball, it says it's easier to fall out of first than it is to go into first. And again, the fundamentals are there. It makes a lot of sense why people, like, there's more utility on the token than anything else, but no proof that NFTs are going to have multiple cycles. You have a lot of fudders, and you're in this ecosystem where there's a lot of legitimate projects. So how do you go in and how does Veve, how do they go from here? How do they market against all of that for themselves while fighting fudders?
They don't need to market for themselves. the cycle is going to take care of it. They just have to have strong positioning within strong narrative, which they have strong positioning within strong narrative. So what's going to happen is Bitcoin goes to 135,000. The world really wakes up to like Bitcoin crypto and, oh my gosh, I'm missing out. Oh crap. Then they start looking deeper and they're like, wait, this blockchain technology improves a lot of things. The combination of cryptographic encryption with a decentralized ledger, well, it allows you to have verified digital collectibles. In fact, like, this just isn't a screenshot of something. Oh my gosh, they got augmented reality Star Wars stuff. Holy cow. Oh my gosh. And so then they start looking at the collectibles and then they start looking at OMI, and all of a sudden OMI goes 10x. Once OMI goes 10x from here, all the fudders are shut up. They're just like, they just don't want to say anything because they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this could happen. And then you have a new crop of like people coming in that they're like, oh, this Star Wars on the Marvel on, oh my gosh, these are great. And so even if the fudders never come back, it's totally irrelevant. It doesn't matter if they do it all. There's so much money out there on the sides. They're going to grab onto this narrative because the narrative is super strong. And people coming in, and for now, it's like, and you look at the history and it's 3 years of going down. Well, at some point that bottoms and it goes the other way. And then that's when it starts going the other way. Everyone who was buying, like my audience at the low prices, they start telling their friends, hey, like my position's up 10x from where it was. And then all of a sudden their friends are like, wait, what? 10 times the amount? Show me. And then they're like, oh my gosh, you got Boba Fett, like augmented reality? That's crazy. You got Darth Vader? Holy cow. Oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me about this? Duh, this is what I've been telling you about. Okay, well, he made 10x. So then they start throwing their money and it cascades and it creates further green candles. And this is just human psychology. This is why market cycles happen. And thank goodness there's so many fudders or the price wouldn't be so cheap. Some people think there's this magical scenario where the price is really cheap and yet everybody knows it's going to go high. Whenever that price is really cheap, 90 to 98% of people are saying, oh my gosh, it's never going to stop going down, until it does stop going down and it starts going the other way. And then a whole bunch of people shut up and then it starts going the other way. And so all the fudders are like, they just don't know what to say. Usually they miss out and they don't buy in until it's at least 10 or 20x from there. And they end up missing because they just haven't learned how market cycles work. And that things go down. Sometimes they go down for longer than you want, but then the trend reverses and it goes massively up. And that's going to happen with OMI. And I don't care who wants to argue with me on that. They're still going to be shown as wrong in this coming year. And that's okay. They can put their money where their mouth is. I've got my money where my mouth is. And we'll just see who's right. There were so many people that wanted to argue with me in 2019, 2020. I don't know where those people are now. I don't know, but they're not in crypto. And it's too bad because 2021 did well enough for me that I was like, man, if I'm just pretty good with my money, I never have to work again. And that is definitely not the position of all these people that wanted to argue with me all the time are in. So, I don't know if they put their money where their mouth was or they were just trolling on the internet. But if you make the right, like, strategic plays in here where the odds are stacked in your favor, and I think OMI is one of those where I feel like the odds are massively stacked in my favor. If it goes well for you, it can go really, really well for you, and it can create some massive kind of gains, the kind you can't get anywhere else. And that's cool. A lot of people don't get it. Part of the reason there's so much profitability here is because so many people don't get it. If everyone got it, if it is understood by everyone, there wouldn't be the kind of profit margins you can make for being able to go in there like a sniper and pick out companies that really are massively undervalued, buy them at those undervalued prices, and wait till everyone recognizes what their value is.
So there's I guess there's a couple of things to talk about. As far as as people go into the lore of the Veve and Akomi place, they'll find that Veve's overcome a lot. They had basically a crook that was a big thorn in their side for years, and that seems to be over now. But as people go into that, they take a look and say, okay, They started with 750 billion. Okay, and a lot has been burned. A lot that was in the reserve and the vault. Hundreds of billions have been burned. There's actually only 305 billion left in circulating supply. And then you take a look. Okay, David and Dan and the business development wallet between them, that's like almost a third of the supply. And if the team would have burned some of their tokens at a commensurate rate to the, I think people might feel comfortable, but it is fairly top heavy. Not, so David, Dan, then you have the business development wallet, and then you have another whale out there that's got another 30 billion. So there's actually like 110 plus billion that's held between, just a couple of people. Do you think that is going to deter investors, or enough investors for it not to reach a high multiple? Or do you think that people generally won't care and they're like, well, they've held for this long, they're probably not going to dump on us, or if they do, they're going to do it in an appropriate way that doesn't really hurt the chart, respects it? And at the same time, how did David and Dan go in and kind of take value out of that? Like, because they rightfully deserve to. They've been through hell these last years.
Most people that will be buying OMI in the coming bull run won't even be aware of that. They'll just be like, how do I buy OMI? They won't be savvy enough to be like, okay, what percentage is held by the owners? Will they be taking profits? They'll benefit from some great things that'll be lined up on their side. For example, most of the tokens are vested already. And so there won't be tokens continually vesting to the team that might be getting dumped on the market. Most of the team tokens are already vested. So they're either have sold some or they're holding them. And sure, they'll take profits as the price goes crazy. That's the perfect time for them to take profits, because as the price is going crazy, them selling some will just get gobbled up like crazy. So it's like, cool. And most of the people coming in, they'll be buying it. It won't matter. Like, some people argue with me that like these the metaverse projects were never going to catch on. And I thought metaverse is going to be a really big deal. And so when the metaverse narrative hit in October of 2021, what was crazy to me is the token had almost no use case at all for the tokens. For Sand token and Decentraland's Mana token, like, the use case was so like dumb. It's funny though, as people were talking about the metaverse narrative, it didn't matter. Mana's token, Decentraland and Sandbox's token went like 200 to 400x from what the bottom had been in the bear market. And I was like, wow. Even with a totally weak use case, all that had to happen was the narrative that they were in to hit. And people that didn't know anything about crypto were like, how do I buy Decentraland's token? Okay, it's called Mana. Where do I buy it? And they weren't asking the deeper questions. They were just FOMOing into, I want exposure to Decentraland's token. It's like, I remember you telling me when the Trump token first launched, you had some people you knew that were like older, but like had significant money, and they're like, I want to buy $10,000 worth of Trump token. They didn't know anything about the token supply, any of that, the right questions to ask. They're just like, Trump token's hot and I want to buy some.
Yeah.
There'll be a point where Veve, this digital collectibles idea, they have the right brands and stuff. And people want to argue with me back in 2021. In fact, half my audience revolted against me covering Veve in March of 2021, because up to then I had been covering mostly crypto projects. I had covered NBA Top Shots, and that ended up doing incredible, like 180x gains. And I looked at Todd McFarlane's Batman and like Veve, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is a good strategic bet. I was like, this Todd McFarlane Batman is 80 gems, which is $80, and I think it's going to do really well from here. And truth is, a bunch of my people were like, stop covering this stupid Batman pictures thing and get back to the real crypto. And I was like, I don't know what you missed about my channel, but my channel is about return on investment. And I don't care if it's a picture of poo. If there's really strong reasons why it might go up 100 or 200x, I'm going to be interested in a picture of poo, because this is about being a strategic investor. So like Batman is like the first Batman on the blockchain is a really big narrative. And so who ended up being right on that? Well, I was. A bunch of my audience was mad because, Cardano was going up at the time, but it was now at like 40, 45 cents after being at 1.7 cents. So it was a deal because it topped out at like 7x from there, but it wasn't the deal it was. But they wanted me to cover Cardano more, not less. But in my opinion, it wasn't as good of a deal. So I was giving Cardano less coverage, and they were getting mad at me because they wanted me to cover it even more. And I was covering things like Veve's app and Todd McFarlane Batman, and it ended up going 200x from there at the top, from March of 2021 to January of 2022. So over the next 9 to 10 months, it went 200x. It topped out at about 16,000 gems from 80 gems. You could buy it for a solid month from there on the app for 80 gems. Amazing return on investment.
So there's we'll mix in the good stuff with the unknown. I remember maybe like a month ago, I was telling you and Dr. Stuff about this kind of whale I knew was up to like 400-ish million. You know, he had only had 20 million as of like 3 months ago, but bought that at a super high price and never dollar cost averaged. And then like a month or so ago, maybe 2 months, was up to like 400 million. And I get a message from this person the other day that is like, hey, can you take a look at this wallet? Because every time I buy, they sell into my buy. And I took a look at it, and it didn't show anything. It's funded by OKX, so they had a lot of OMI on OKX. Couldn't tell where, couldn't tell like how much. Dude went to war, and now he has 820 million OMI. This is the spike in volume we had the other day, and at some point you're likely going to have the people that there's going to be more buyers than sellers, and the people that sell are going to run out. This person had spent probably like 100 grand almost, and that person had to have sold like 100 grand worth. So like there's got to be a certain type of, I guess, algorithm or whatever that you can say, okay, there's only X amount of OMI, that there can't be too much more left that people need to sell. But what if there is? Like, how do you go in and kind of judge? Okay, I've had people spend over $1 million this last 6 months on buying OMI, and it's gone down. And it's just, one, that is a little disheartening. Two, a lot of these people are going to sell at some point, and not everyone is going to wait until it does a 200x. Some people sell at 4x, some at 10, some at 40, 50, etc. How do you deal with the unknown of, there seems to be these phantom sellers that are doing nothing but selling, and they seem to never run out?
Well, they will run out. It just seems right now that they'll never run out. So buying the bottom is hard. So the Rothschild family, which has been investing for over 400 years, they tried to buy the bottom and they tried to sell the top. And they're like, I never end up buying right at the bottom. I never end up selling the top because it's an impossible thing. So what you're trying to do is just buy low. And if it goes lower from you, great, you buy some more. And that's just how people that understand the game do it. Now, there's other people that are newer to this, like, oh my gosh, I bought at 0.0003 and it went to 0.0002. Should I sell? And it's like, no. Well, it's gone down. I've lost like so much of my value. It's like, well, you can buy even cheaper now. You haven't lost the value unless you sell at that. And if you sell at that, you're crazy. That's buy even more price. So the longer term, like what I've realized is so many people aren't wired for this. I wish it was easier, and it's not. But the people that are committed to making really good money in crypto, here's what you have to be able to do. And it takes tenacity like most people just don't have. Like for me, it just came natural that like this is what you have to do to make money. And I call it the price of success. The price of success is buying. So Cardano, I used as an example because it was pretty clear. I started buying Cardano in the last bear market at 11 cents. Do I wish I had known it was going to bottom out at 1.7 cents? Would have been amazing. But I don't have a magic crystal ball. I didn't know it would go all the way down there. So when I bought at 11 cents and it went to 9 cents, I bought more. So now, because we're way down the road, we know exactly where the bottom was. But at the time, it was impossible to tell. And then it went to 7 cents. So I bought some more. And then it went to 5 cents. And sure, I was like, darn, man, I wish I had known to wait least I didn't give up, because there's other people. It's like, oh my gosh, Cardano does nothing but go down. I'm selling. That was a mistake on their part. I bought more at 5 cents, and then it went to 3 cents, and I loaded the boat. I was so happy. Other people were super pissed. I was like, oh my gosh, this is Christmas, 3 cents. This is amazing. So I doubled my position in Cardano at that point. And I set aside 10,000 to buy in case it went under 10 cents or 2 cents. And it did bottom out at 1.7 cents. And people freaked out. A bunch of people sold the bottom. It's like, I'm getting out of Cardano. Alt season is never going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. Like, we can look back in the past and laugh at them, but exactly the same percentage number of people are making the same mistake this time. Why? Look, somebody has to be on the losing side of these bets. And unfortunately, it's the people that won't understand what it takes to really be successful. This won't pay that price of success. The price of success is patience and letting it play out. So over this, just like the previous bear market, I took all these positions. And when it got cheaper, if I liked the project and it looked like it still had good survival chances, I would buy more. If it got cheaper, I'd buy more. Same thing this cycle. OMI's gotten so cheap. I wish I had known. I probably put $200,000 or $300,000 into OMI. I would have so much more OMI. If I knew it was going to go to this price, that'd be amazing. I would have probably like 6 times the amount of OMI, maybe 7 times the amount of OMI for exactly what I spent. That would be amazing, but I don't have that magic crystal ball to know exactly where the bottom is. I have to just buy at what seems like good value, realizing if it goes cheaper, I just buy more. And that's what's happened. And so we haven't seen the upside of this. This story is yet to be finished, but that is how it's going to go. OMI is going to go crazy. Veve fundamentally is one of the really, really strong altcoins out there. And so barring some major thing like the founders were arrested and jailed for some scandal, I don't see why OMI doesn't go crazy. I would give it really strong odds. And I would say OMI has like a 95% chance to go crazy in this coming bull run. And if it goes well, it won't just 10x from here. It'll 20x, 30x, 50x, maybe even 200x, maybe even 800x from here. So those kinds of odds, if you could get those playing poker. But the deal is, okay, you got to come in, put your money on the table, and wait a year. People would take it. But if I tell people those numbers, like, can you guarantee me? It's like, look, I wish there were guarantees. There would be guarantees if I had a magic crystal ball. The reason I've made so much money in crypto is I just make my own assessments of what I think has good odds, and I put my money on the table. Like at 21, playing blackjack, you can end up making a lot of money if you can count cards because you're stacking the odds in your favor. They try to ban counting cards because the house wants odds stacked in their favor. But by using research and some background and understanding of investment principles so that you can look for good teams, good projects, good narratives that have a strong chance to play out, and you take bets where the odds are massively stacked in your favor and you diversify across a bunch of them, well, it takes luck out of the equation. So you're not relying on luck to become rich. You're relying on the odds to become rich. And that's what I did in 2019, 2020. Worked out really good for me. That's all I've been doing again this bear market. But we started this OMI as my homie show because OMI's one of my favorite bets. OMI's one of my ones that I'm just like, gosh, the chances are so strong for OMI to do really well. There's always fudders when the price is this low. The fudders are just like relentless because it seems like they're winning until suddenly they aren't. And then they just flitter away. I don't know where all those Cardano haters from 2020 went. I don't know where they were when Cardano was 1.7 cents and they were jumping up and down on the grave of Cardano and Cardano is dead. See, we were right. Where'd they go? I have no idea. They're not on Twitter anymore. They're not bringing up how wrong they were on Cardano for some reason. They're just gone. So all these people that are saying there's no altcoin season, it'll just be Bitcoin only and maybe XRP. Look, I do believe in XRP. I do believe in Bitcoin, but they're wrong too. It's going to filter into alts with strong fundamentals massively because blockchain and cryptographical encryption allows the internet to do things it couldn't do. And there are certain business use cases where crypto is going to reduce costs and increase efficiencies in these businesses tremendously. And the right altcoin projects that are aligned with that are going to do absolutely incredible. In fact, some that aren't even, but they're just kind of associated with those narratives will even do incredible because some of those use cases are so strong. There's good product market fit, and they're going to go crazy.
Made it sound so ominous. I don't know what happened to the haters. The FUDs, they're gone. They're dead. They're never be heard from again. So
social media, like they're just like, you know, they probably just moved on. They're probably still on Twitter. They just don't bring up how wrong they were because they feel stupid, because they actually got people to sell at the bottom. And so what's funny is a lot of these people don't learn. They don't become better. They just FUD whatever the new thing is. Like they're just consistently wrong.
So let's take a look at how things can be a bit more bullish. Somebody that both has a lot of followers and a lot of clout, someone like Raoul Pal, has gone over and been, I don't want to say pumping, but he's been promoting the fact that art tends to be the upside of wealth. If you want to find life on other planets, you follow the water. If you want to determine, hey, this person is successful, and if I do what they did, maybe one day I'll have what they have, you follow the money. You don't want to follow the steps of somebody who's continuously made bad decisions. You want to follow someone that's continuously made good ones. And Raoul Pal is talking about how a lot of people from the art world, which in the physical art world, some people are like, oh, it's $1 million. I'm not buying that. It's not worth it for them. They buy stuff in the 8 or 9 figures. Mm-hmm. And there's probably a reason why autoglyphs are worth $250,000. There's probably a reason, and why nobody has ever heard of them, even in Web3. And there's probably reasons why, you know, he's buying a bunch of, I think, Miladies and crypto dick butts. I swear that's a real thing. I looked it up. Don't Google that though. You like type in NFT if you're going to Google that, or else you're going to have a bad time. So I feel like money is going to flow in this eventually, even without becoming what Web3 purists would say that Veve has to do and become interoperable. But in that scenario, in that case, you have NBA Top Shots, which are now on OpenSea. And OpenSea, I always kind of wanted Veve to stay away from because it was a wasteland of near extinction of scams, and it's a bunch of stuff that's poop. There's nothing there. There's nothing good there outside of scams. But now it seems that Dapper Labs has kind of legitimized it a little bit more, where you have NBA Top Shots on there, and maybe you get UFC Strike, maybe you get NFL All Day. But I think that this is telling people that a lot of these licensors are ready to take that next step and be on something outside of a closed ecosystem. Like Dapper Labs was a closed ecosystem. What's probably gotten them to go outside is the fact that they had to pay like a $6 million fine for being a closed ecosystem. But I think that's why Veve made, you know, they had Dr. Profit make Stacker. So do you think that Veve goes on OpenSea? What are the consequences if it does and doesn't?
My guess is down the road they do. And they already have stackers, so they have a secondary marketplace. But in the future, it'll be easier and easier for the technologies to integrate. They'll be able to integrate their stuff with OpenSea. And they'll want it on as many marketplaces as possible where they can still guarantee like the royalties, right? So a big part of Veve working over long term is those royalties, not just to Veve, but to the other ones, the other licensors, because that will get licensors continually interested in producing top quality stuff for Veve's app. And I think it'll end up in a lot of marketplaces in the future. I think Stacker is probably just the first. The other one will probably come farther down the road. Like I would imagine it's not even a high priority. They have a lot of things. They've really pushed out a lot in the last year and a half. I remember all the complaints of like, they haven't done this. They literally have knocked out the full sheet of what those complaints were from 18 months ago. And they're continuing to develop. And so that doesn't mean the fudders are back there is like, all these things are wrong with Veve. If they don't fix it, I'm out. They fixed it. Now the fudders are still fudding on them, right? So like, oh my gosh, they fixed it all. They're really just like, Omi price is still down. Veve app items price is still down. So therefore they still suck. And it's really, they're just mad that like, they don't understand market cycles and price has gone lower on them. And they're just mad because they had things from back then and they wish the value was way up. And so therefore Veve sucks because their values aren't higher. That's just inexperienced investors not knowing what the hell they're doing. Cool. So they're going to be mad until later when the prices go up above what they bought at. And then they'll be like, oh, I wish I had bought more when Rain and Randy and Dr. Stubb were talking about it. Yeah, if wishes were fishes. Like, it takes savages to be here and buying in this environment. And most people just aren't savages. I mean, my crypto channel is dedicated to teaching people about that. But most people aren't. They just can't do the right thing. And so it's cool that I can only attract a small percentage of people out there. I hope that the number of people that could learn this stuff was higher than it is, but it just is low. And that's all right. I mean, that's why there's such great margins, because most people won't buy anywhere near the bottom. They're scared to death. They want to wait till it goes up 20x. They feel safer buying after it's 20x than they do buying when it looks like it just will go down for forever. In my opinion, after it's 20x, that's so much riskier, because like, who knows how long that's going to continue. So most people can't buy low and sell high. They have to buy high hoping it goes higher, and it usually doesn't work out well for them. Omi Child said, Omi is still not set up for the boom. It is way more than you realize, and it's okay. It's unfortunate they don't care about the token like they care about Veve. Well, I can get why you feel that way, and you might even be right that they don't care about the token like they do about Veve. But David's whole idea was the Veve digital app. So do they care about the token? I think more than they get credit for. I think they do. But do they care about as much as like the Veve platform and releasing the IP? I don't think David does, because David's whole goal was to release these digital collectibles in the IP. Like, he's a kid in the candy store signing new license deals and bringing this stuff to the app. Like, but that is in itself what's going to give Omi the value. So I want him to be doing what he's doing, because that's what's going to drive the value for Omi. Like, what is the value for the Decentraland's mana token? Like, nothing. But when the metaverse narrative hit, because people want exposure to Decentraland and they didn't want to go on and buy a whole bunch of Decentraland collectibles, they just threw money at the token, just straight up threw money at the token. So the token went crazy. Same thing will happen to Omi. Just, it's okay that people don't realize it. This pattern will repeat. Most people didn't even recognize it the first time this pattern happened, or they weren't around. But that same pattern will repeat, because David's crushing it with giving Veve so much of the right attention. That's setting the environment that the token's going to go crazy, whether or not he thinks about the token every day.
So you mentioned first-time investors before, talking about Omi, and Omi Child mentioning they don't care about the token. They're legit marketing it at the non-fungible conference summit. And one of the things that they're doing is they're giving away 100,000 Omi for every new person that signs up, which is not a lot, it's $20. But it reminds me of a story about a singer named Lily Allen. Lily Allen in 2009 was invited to play a concert, and she was offered payment of 200,000 Bitcoin, and she declined it. And I feel like some of these people that are just like, okay, what do I do with this? They're going to go in, okay, free Omi. What's an Omi? Well, you can use it to buy these collectibles. Like, well, I don't really know what an Omi is, but I like these comics that are on here. So I'm going to take this Omi and I'm going to buy these comics. And they're going to spend that like it's free money, because it is. And that 100,000 Omi that they might spend on a couple comics, which again is $20, what they'll do is they'll look back at that, I think, in the next 6 to 8 months from now, 6 to 12 months from now. And they'll be like, man, that $20 would have been $2,000 if it 100x, 200x before, $4,000 mortgage payment. Like, and there's probably multiple people. Oh, hey, can my girlfriend do it? Can I get it? Do one, and my girlfriend do one. And again, that 200x, yeah, that's $8,000. That's quite an opportunity that people are doing. And I'm not saying not to do that. Like, if you have 200 million Omi, it's probably okay to spend 100,000 or so on some comics or collectibles.
I'm struggling because I've got Omi and I bought little bits more. It is so easy to buy through Stacker now. I love it. But yeah, I don't spend my Omi on stuff on the app because I'm like, that Omi is so underpriced right now. Just like Lorenz is saying, Omi looking real juicy. He's right. Like, that price is so low. And some people are like, what if it goes lower? And it's like, it could. I don't know where the bottom is. Would you have bought Cardano at 3 cents? Well, sure. You would, because you know that following that, if you look at the charts, it went to $3.40. So it seems like a no-brainer. But at the time, it's like, Cardano's dead. It's a slow rug pull, and just nobody knows it yet. Charles Hoskinson's a scammer, and he's just trying to get as much money as he can before he exit scams on everyone. They were just wrong. They didn't know what they were talking about. And it bottomed at 1.7 cents. So was 3 cents a great deal? Yes, it was an amazing deal. 1.7 cents was just a more amazing deal. And then once it bottomed, that bottom never was hit again. It just went up from there. And then it went to 9 cents. It went to 12 cents. It went to 15 cents. It went to 30 cents. It went to 45 cents. And then you're in March of 2021. And I was covering Veve stuff because the time to buy Cardano was past. You know, a lot of my audience clearly didn't get the message I was trying to tell them. Like, buy cheap and sell high. Buying Cardano at 45 cents isn't the same as buying it at 3 cents. It just isn't. And so, you know, it was time to look at other things. And Veve's app was one of those things. So I guess I covered it on the same day as someone else covered it. The first time anyone covered it on YouTube at all. And I wasn't even pronouncing Veve right, because I looked for videos to see if I could learn more about their app, and I couldn't find a single video on it. So I was pronouncing it Veve.
The Veve. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So there's a little thread that I want to read. It's from Epic Chain, where they're introducing OEX Loans. It's peer-to-peer assets lending on Epic Chain and Ethereum. So OEX Loans empowers people to unlock liquidity from digital assets, from blue chip assets to on-chain collectibles. It's supposedly fast, trustless, and decentralized. They're a decentralized lending protocol operating on the Epic Chain and Ethereum. It lets users borrow against their digital assets, turning illiquid assets into capital, while lenders can earn interest. And I feel like this is what me and Rain might do. Peer-to-peer, there's no intermediaries. It's just smart contracts. So the process is simple, secure, and borrower-friendly. You list your assets with a loan amount, APR, and duration, and you receive and accept offers from lenders, and then you repay the loan and reclaim your digital asset. Well, what do I know what to list it for? What APR? The free market will take care of everything. If something is too high, no lender's going to bid. If something's too low, everyone's going to fight for it. The free market will make it have a happy medium, and then there's going to be opportunities there. And as far as loan to value, I don't know what it's going to be. If you have a $250,000 autoglyph, nobody's going to give you a $250,000 for that, because if you default on it, yeah, that's technically worth that. How much is somebody actually willing to pay for it? Maybe they have to list it at 220, 200. We don't know. But I guarantee you, someone like me or Rain would say, like, yeah, we'll give you 125 for it. We'll give you 50% loan to value, because this way, if they default and I have to chop off 50K from it, I'm still up 75K. And again, you're going to have that happy medium. They say it goes from 7 days to 365 days. And because it's peer-to-peer, the usury, I don't know if usury charges are going to be beyond that. Like, if somebody, it's crypto. Somebody's be like, yo, I heard this one token is going to do like a 10x. Who cares if you have to pay 50% interest when you're making a 10x? It makes it, and this is how people are going to get wrecked. Mm-hmm. Especially because there's no KYC. So there's going to be a whole mess of stuff that's going to go wrong with this. But the amounts of, if they could do this with Veve, and again, like, if, again, this is 2 steps removed, okay, go on OpenSea, because right now they're only doing PFPs. So you have CryptoPunk, NFTs, Bored Apes, Mutant Apes, Azuki, Artifacts, Doodles, Pudgy Penguins, Autoglyphs, and digital assets from the Fanable app. So shout out to Comics and Crypto. They're going to have field day with this. When they go and do this, if I'm an investor and I was like, what are these pixelated pictures of, and again, Pudgy Penguins are awesome. CryptoPunks are likely going to stay around and stand the test of time, in my opinion. It might not. But any 50-year-old market maker, any 50-year-old VC, they're gonna be like, what is this? But if they say, oh, is this Spider-Man? Is this licensed? Is this a first appearance or first edition, Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse? They would probably rather lend out against that as opposed to something that nobody else outside of Web3 has ever heard of. So I think that once these once these licensors know that, oh, we could have people unlock value with this. I mean, like, you don't always have to sell your home to get value out of it. Take an equity line of credit, or even if you don't own your home 100%, worth $400K, but you still owe 100K on it. Well, you do a cash out refinance. You get a new loan for 400K. It takes out the old loan of 100K, and you net 300K. So you don't have to actually sell it. You get a whole bunch of money. Now, obviously, you have 400K you have to pay off, but still, that helps unlock a lot of liquidity. And there's so much that people can do with this. And I feel like once the licensors kind of get wind of this, that again, it just unlocks so much more capital. And if you're able to say to your investors, this is what our collectibles can do. Because if you want to make sure that you stay in first in the digital collectibles realm, if you want to make, like, it doesn't matter that other companies can try to copy what Veve's doing. As long as Veve can continue to out innovate, heck, like, let them copy. Crypto has openly said, we're building our model based off of what Veve's doing. Hasn't done so hot from them. Nobody's heard from them in months. However, again, as long as Veve continues to out innovate, I think this is fine. So, Rain, what are your thoughts about this? There's so much to go over.
Well, so it'll be a while before you'll be able to borrow against, especially your Veve digital collectibles. Like, if it ever happens, which I think it does down the road, it is going to be a thing with already with some of the bigger NFTs. And part of why I think we're going to have a super cycle is you're going to see that leverage goes crazy. So there was an excellent video by Coin Bureau. So most of the people that cover crypto on YouTube, their background's not investors, right? And so even if they have really big channels, there's very few channels that I just love. Coin Bureau is one of those that I love. Amazing research in Coin Bureau's videos. They're really smart and really good there. This video was great, and it was talking about the coming leverage boom from DeFi that's going to come, and how it will probably cause an overboom, which will probably bring an overbust. And that's been my concern. You've been looking at, Michael Saylor has this idea of buy Bitcoin, then borrow some of the value against it to buy more Bitcoin, and then borrow more against that to buy more Bitcoin. And that creates a house of cards. So Michael Saylor's been like, he was somewhat getting close to getting liquidated this last bear market. So maybe he's careful enough that he won't get liquidated normally. But there's a whole bunch of people that are going to copy his strategy. They're going to be less careful. And at some point, it's going to cause the price of Bitcoin to overboom, which will then cascade into the whole crypto market, especially strong fundamental projects. But at some point, that bubble is going to burst, much like the stock market crash that led to there were a lot of things that led to the Great Depression. Some of it was the stock market crash, the overbuying because they could just borrow money to buy more stocks. Then they would borrow against those stocks and they would buy more stocks. Exactly what DeFi is going to allow some people to do. And so it could cause a massive overboom, which will cause an overbust. And people are going to borrow against their CryptoPunks to buy more CryptoPunks. And then they're going to borrow against those to buy more. And it will create a cascade of collapse, which will create prices. Like prices, when they swing too far up to the upside, they swing too far to the downside. And we saw that with OMI. OMI went 3,000x from the bear market to the 2021 top. So what's happening in the last 3 years? It's been overcorrecting downwards. So it's swinging too far to the downside. It's going to swing really far to the upside again, especially if we have this overboom. And then it's going to overbust again. And so what you're talking about is going to lead to an overbust. I think we're going to have a massive boom because people will be finding new and innovative ways to borrow against their crypto to buy more crypto, which will cause the prices to go absolutely crazy, which will then almost guarantee a collapse because as things get liquidated, it drops the price further. As it drops further, more things get liquidated, drops the price further, and it's a cascading impact. We saw that with Celsius and Voyager, the people that were borrowing their capital to invest it and paying them a return. Well, they were getting liquidated, which then it caused a cascading amount of liquidations to happen during this last bear market.
There's a there's a difference between people. There's a difference between something going up because people have a genuine belief in it, because it has fundamentals and it makes sense, versus that kind of delusion where, yeah, this is going to go to X amount of dollars or X amount of cents, where it might not make sense for that to happen. As if somebody wants to buy, let's say, OMI as opposed to, let's say, like DEVVE, which again, both are great, because OMI is at, you know, less than like one fifth of 1 penny, or 1/5 of 1/10 of 1 penny. And they're like, well, I want to get OMI now and then wait till it goes 50 cents. Be advised, that is a like, what, 2000x ish from here. That's a lot. And I'm not saying that can't happen, but the odds of that are very low. Yeah. But there is something to say about not underestimating a group of people that have a lot of conviction, but also a bit of delusion, where they kind of don't pay attention to the market cap and they only pay the price. And if you have a lot of people like that, kind of like the mass hysteria, you have a lot of people that believe something, even if it's not true, that can really affect the price. You have the people that think it'll go on forever. You have the people that think it should reach an insane market cap when it shouldn't. But if those two things happen at the same time, yeah, you could hit some crazy valuations where it definitely shouldn't hit, but it will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think prices are going to swing. I think Bitcoin breaks through the 185,000 top, and it goes up from there. And the more it goes up from there, the safer people will feel, not realizing they should feel more scared. Not more safe, they should feel more scared. But recency bias is real. You see that so much with OMI going down for 3 years. Oh, it's done nothing but go down for 3 years. It's just going to keep going down. And that's just not the case. When Bitcoin's going crazy and it breaks past 200,000, 250,000, people are going to feel safer than ever to buy Bitcoin at that price. And guess what? When it reverses from there, it's going to go far below that price. But they're going to feel safer than ever. And guess what? Facts don't matter. Feelings do in people's buying and selling decisions. So people will buy because it feels safe, even though they shouldn't be. Like right now is a great time to buy, even Bitcoin. Like it's got a lot more potential to go much higher from here. But it doesn't feel safe to most people. So they're not buying yet. But at 250,000, for some reason, it'll feel safe to them. And that's when they'll buy. Right now, it doesn't feel safe for so many people to buy OMI because literally they can't buy low. They have to watch it 10x before they can be like, oh, okay, now it's safe. 10x from now, it's a lot safer, less safe than it is now, but they won't feel that way. They will feel the opposite because they haven't learned how to change their wiring. So they fall into the trap that 89% of people that try to make money and trade crypto do, which leads them to either not make money or to straight up lose money. The numbers were bad, 89%.
Speaking of numbers, we saw for the Veve challenge and the month of May, at least in the first half of the month, you had several days in the first half of the month where we were at 1,000 users a day. And then the second half of the month came. And from the 20th to the 29th, it was not great. You had a high of 816 users and a low of 502 users on any given day. So I had this crazy idea. It's actually our friend Ernie's idea for marketing. Last year, Doritos had posted an ad saying, anyone can send us a 30-second commercial that they make for Doritos. And the winner, the one that we feel is the best, will be able to go in and we'll use that for our Super Bowl commercial. And you'll win $1 million. So not only do you get the credibility of saying, yeah, I made a Super Bowl commercial, but you get $1 million on top of that. I think that David and Dan have a ton of unlocked potential here, or untapped potential, for them saying, like, again, it would look not great if they started selling, even just like, 100 million OMI. That's such a small fraction of what they have. But I think what they could do is, if let's say some of the voters are right, and like, yeah, they let Ben go and Mitch because they're out of money. They have no money, which again, I think is wrong for a host of reasons. But let's say that's true. How do you pay for marketing? How do you justify, putting out a $50,000 or $100,000 ad like that? That's going to cost one influencer one ad. What do? Well, you say, we're going to offer out 100 million, 500 million OMI for anyone that can make a 30-second to a 3-minute video of why they love Veve and Akomi, and why, not saying that people should buy it, but just why they love it. And the top 5 or 10 people that have the best, they'll get a certain amount. So and again, they could make it really crazy, and they could say like, we'll donate like 200 million OMI each from this, which is a small fraction of what they have. But it's and yeah, that might create some sell pressure. But Ernie knows the guy that made that Doritos commercial, and he would absolutely do that same thing for Veve and Akomi if they had this type of thing, and he would hold it. Now, other people, you might get that to sell, but again, it's free marketing because it doesn't cost them anything. They don't have to take from their treasury, from their their war chest and pay it out. It just comes from, and that stuff that's in the circulating supply anyway. What do you think about that? Do you think that would create too much sell pressure? Do you think that would go in and I think that'd be an overwhelmingly net positive thing, but tell me your thoughts.
It is a terribly good idea. Really, really good idea. Why? It would create so much engagement trying to make the commercial that then everyone would be sharing their versions that they made. And so they would get 700 commercials out there that everyone's sharing, trying to figure out which one is the best and which one might win. And so it's an amazing idea. I love it.
Yeah,
I think it brings value to Veve. It gets engagement way up. It gets people sharing things with their friends. I don't really see a downside of it. Most marketing in this kind of market is stupid. Build a commercial and pay a bunch of money you're just going to burn money. That idea though is different because it allows your Veve fan base to be making stuff, and even people who aren't yet Veve fans, it will introduce new fans that hear about the idea that maybe have commercial generation experience, and they will be making it free of charge in the event or in hopes that they win. So it will create so many commercials that the whole Veve family is going to end up watching, which they might even share some with their friends. And so it is the best idea I've heard of marketing in crypto to date.
And there's multiple reasons for people. Obviously, people saying that, yeah, I won this amount of money, won this amount of crypto, and they get that reward. But also, there's a token that I talk about called SHIRO, and they had this competition saying like, hey, within the confines of Twitter, because Twitter will only let you write so much, there's only so many characters on there, is that within the confines of Twitter and what it'll let you do, write a short story about SHIRO, and you can make it up, which I did, and it took me a couple of minutes to write, and I won. And I tell the story as often as I can because it makes me feel good. It's something that I did, and they chose me to think, and they sent some SHIRO tokens. So I feel like a lot of people, there's a book called The 5 Love Languages, and they should probably make that for leadership as well. Certain people they feel super satisfied and rewarded either from physical touch, from personal time, from small gifts, list goes on. And I feel like the same is said with workers. You could have somebody that like, yeah, they'll take like the payment. They're not going to reject it, but they're just going to feel so much better with hey, great job. Because maybe their, mother or father didn't give them any validation when they were younger. And that great job and them saying like, hey, I won this. This is something that I placed in and I got rewarded for. Even if there wasn't any payment, even if it just said that they won, they would do it for that reason. And I feel like you're going to get content creators from super talented ones from all over the place. So another thing I want to go over is IP. So you have Hailey Bieber, Justin Bieber's wife, that came out of the Diddy trial, but she was practicing witchcraft since she was a teenager, and that's a whole other thing. I need to bring that up. But in 2014, she started makeup tutorials, as a lot of girls do. But she's Hailey Bieber. She happens to be, super pretty, and in 2022, she's made so much from this. Like, I'm going to cut out the middleman, and I'm going to launch my own makeup product called Rhode, RHODE. And she did. And again, she started the company basically from her own pocket, from scratch. And in 3 years, sold it for $1 billion. She just sold it like 4 or 5 days ago to a company called EIF for $1 billion. Now, is it because her makeup product is so much better than the tons of other makeup products out there? Maybe it is a little bit. I assume she doesn't test on animals. But she uses it. It's hers. Veve is the best at what they do, and they are the best at making high-end 3D digital collectibles of everybody else's IP. What they don't have is their own IP. They have the Veve logos that they had sold, and those sold out. That was great. And the dioramas, which granted the dioramas tend to have not done well historically on Veve, I think outside of the Peter Pan one. I think that one did really well. Veve on their diorama drop, which is their own IP, made like less than $8,000. I think it would behoove them to make their own characters, make a little Veve duck, make a Veve squirrel, make a Veve guy named Bob, and have that. Is that something that you think they should waste time and energy on? And it's like, Randy, they don't really need to do this. It would be a net negative. Or do you think like, well, maybe hire someone to do that and see where it goes?
I think that them making Veve brand items is something down the road. Timing feels wrong for me, but maybe I'm incorrect on that. I think it's a given that there will be a market for it, but right now, I like that they're slowly adding in some things. I like that they did the logos. I like that they're doing some of their own name, but I hope they continue focusing on bringing in like amazing brands into it for now. And then that's going to set up an environment where they can launch really their own brands within it and have them do exceptionally well.
Got it. On that end, when we're talking about their Veve stuff that they dropped, you have a lot of people, well, I shouldn't say a lot, you have a loud minority that were very disappointed that like, hey, it's their own Veve IP. Why didn't they use it to burn Omi? They could have used this to burn Omi. They just want people's money. They don't care about the token. And it's like, bro, it is their first time doing this. And people are acting like they've done this for like 20 times in a row. I feel like this was a good test. And again, it's a diorama. And I feel like their other IP, you probably will have some option to buy with Omi, and a large portion of that can get burned. Or am I being too apologetic and I'm too much of a moon boy? And should they have started with this?
Well, this idea of burning really catches on to people because they're like, yes, there's going to be less supply of the tokens, so that means my Omi value goes up. And in 2017, so burning tokens is a gimmick. And I mean, it really does reduce the supply, but here's the thing. Like, would Veve be better off capturing money from that and using that money to hire better employees who move Veve further? Well, I think so. I think that's a better gimmick. It's called better business growth. And I'd rather see that because that will bring better value to the token in the long run. So the better Veve does, the better Omi's going to do. So this idea of burns, I get it. I was around 2017 when burns were like the thing. And I even believed in them back then. But Charles Hoskinson made this case during the bear market when everyone's like, Cardano doesn't do burns and it's never going to go up because your guys' token supply doesn't go down. Number one, the people saying that were just wrong. It did go up and it went 200x from the bottom. Number two, like he made the case that it's like, sure, we could just burn money, like lighting tokens on fire and burning them. But we could take that money and we could invest it well to bring even more value to the community. And that's the route I'm going to take. It seems like the more sensible approach. And he's right on that. So cool. Do I have a lot of tokens? Yes. Burns, if they happen, okay. I'd rather see them use the money to grow the business more so that the business can become bigger, because I want Veve to become the #1 digital collectibles app in the world. that most like the cool digital collectibles that everyone wants is in the Veve app. Why? So OMI will have a greater value in that case. Well, if they're burning all the revenues that they make, they won't have the money to fund it as much. So I'd rather see them use that money smartly. So I don't care that they didn't burn OMI and sell it in OMI. Like sell the, I want them making revenue so that they can continue to grow. You know, most of their competitors have gone out of business because it's a hard environment out there during the bear market. Veve needs to survive or OMI's really not going to do well. And so survive, Veve, thrive, do as good as you can in this bear market. I mean, most of your competitors have gone out of business. That's good for you. They're still making sales. That's good. But they do need to survive until the bull market goes crazy. And that's probably not very far away. And in that, like, people will wake up to this idea that digital collectibles are a thing. The amount of money that it's going to come into digital collectibles, most people don't realize it's going to be huge for the same reason that people buy art. Art is a social flex. It really is. It holds value because when you have $10 billion, what do? Well, you already have a nice Learjet. You can buy a second one. You already have a nice yacht. You could buy a second one. But what they do is they have houses and then they have social flexes. Oh, I have a Van Gogh. Oh, I have a Monet. Oh, I have this. And so social flexes are important. Well, in the digital collectibles world, there will be social flexes. What those are is yet to be determined. Probably some of them will be Bored Apes and CryptoPunks and a few other NFTs. This idea of digital collectible is going to be a really big thing. And there's going to be some social flexes for things that are huge within the Veve app itself. And which are those things? I don't know. But I think in the future, there'll be people paying millions and millions of dollars for some of the items on Veve.
I just had another idea. Even if they didn't want to use some of their OMI, the winner of the contest could get their QR code shown at the end of Veve videos, where and it could be for like, you know, a month. Be like, hey, Veve posts a video, be like, join Veve now, scan the QR code, and whoever won the previous contest would get their QR code scanned, and they'd get $10, $15, $20 per sign up, and they could have this every month. Okay, May's contest is over now. For all of June, the person who won the May contest will get their QR code showed, and then they could do it for the month of July. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think about that?
It's too often. It's got to be like 6 months. Otherwise, you won't get as much time put into making like top-notch commercials. If there's one every month, you just get a bunch of barely okay videos. It won't have the same impact.
Okay, fair point.
Because it's going to take a lot of time and effort. You want people really working hard because the reward is juicy to win that, so that you get commercials that are funny, that are awesome, that have impact.
Good point. Good call.
So we had a question from Lil Rains back here. Like, thoughts on XRP? Look, most people don't really realize this yet. If you've been in the crypto community for a while, you've heard this narrative that XRP is going to be the new financial rails of the new financial system. And it is going to be that. It already is in Japan, whether people realize or not, much of Europe, and is coming to the US, that money will not be sent on SWIFT in the future, which if you send, say, $40 million from the US to Europe, might take you 2 weeks, and you might pay $400,000 to $1 million in fees to get that money there. And 2 weeks is an unacceptable time frame in today's day and age. But the financial rail is going to be XRP, and you'll be able to send $40 million in a matter of seconds at a cost of maybe $4. And so XRP is going to become the new financial rails. I think in the coming 10 years, XRP is between $100 to $1,000, probably closer to the $1,000. So I like XRP for a long-term play. For a 10-year play, I like XRP a ton. What will it do this bull run? You know, it's looking like it's going to do well. I mean, it's already realized some of its gains. Like, it already went like 6x from what the bottom was. But I think it's going to do pretty well in the coming run. I think over the next 10 years, it goes to closer to $1,000. So I like XRP for a longer play. I don't hold very much XRP because most of my stuff is timed to do well this bull run. And then I'll take profits, put it to the side, wait to see if things crash. And if it totally crashes, then I'll redeploy a bunch of that capital. I'll diversify a bunch out of crypto altogether. so that I'm going to buy some toys. I'm going to buy some houses, you know, the necessary stuff in life.
XRP, I think, kind of shot themselves in the foot with respect to one thing. I think back in April, they bought prime broker Hidden Road for 1.25 billion. And we don't know publicly what the earnings were of Hidden Road. But if they were doing, let's say, 60 million, you know, a year, that's a 20x multiple. Those close to them might say that they probably weren't earning that much, but again, that's a 20x multiple if they were earning 60 million a year. They tried to buy Circle for like a couple billion. I think they tried to buy them like twice, and Circle's like, hell nah. Circle, which owned, I think, like 25% of all of the stable coins out there, which is worth like $250 billion. So they have like 60 billion, you know, out there in these stable coins or for USDC. And if they did a 20x earnings multiple for Hidden Road, which again, that could be high, could be low, we don't know. That you can't just go in and offer somebody like a 5x or, you know, of their earnings, like the next time. So, whoa, you just paid like a 20x earnings. These guys, we're not going to take like a 4x of our earnings, a 5x. They might have to do another 20. So I think that Ripple has so much money that they set a precedent. It's like Seinfeld, where Seinfeld back in the early 90s was the most popular show on TV, bar none. I think like 80 million people watched their final episode. For the last season, they set something so ridiculously priced where they were making, like, at the time, like hundreds of thousands per episode, which was like unheard of at the time. But that set a precedent for modern day television, or not modern day, but, you know, from the 90s. Then suddenly, okay, Ray Romano is suddenly getting, you know, 1 point something million dollars per episode. Then the cast of Friends there last year was getting like $1 million an episode. Then House was getting millions per episode. I think what XRP did is they set this precedent of, before the blow off top even happens, yeah, you're, if you want to acquire a company, you're going to have to give them 20, 30, 40x multiple on their earnings. And because that precedent has set, it's like that episode of the Rugrats where they're inside of a TV. They're making pretend that they're on a TV show. Tommy tells Chucky, like, hey, it's called you know, throw the 8-ball as hard as you can. There's a whole bunch of China in there. And Chucky's like, but won't I hit something and break it? And Tommy's like, well, it's okay. My daddy set a bad example. XRP set this, I don't want to say bad, but this example of paying such a higher amount than what a company's worth because of their earnings, that all of these companies, if they're going to want to acquire others, are going to have to go in and say, yeah, we'll give you a 10 to a 40 to a 60x earnings, which is bananas. So again, this blowout title, you're going to see companies that are doing like low 8 figures get acquired for like a bill. Like it's going to be crazy. So that's my thought on XRP and how they kind of, what they did affected this space in a crazy way, and I don't think anybody knows it yet. But what they also did is, let's say if somebody like Disney wanted to buy like Nintendo, I'm just making stuff up here, but, you know, Disney has $250 billion, you know, right? And let's say Nintendo's worth like 50 billion, give or take. You know, Disney in a normal world could buy them. But now that, you know, suddenly the earnings are like, what they did is they locked out so much of the competition that maybe could have made some strategic plays and like, yeah, we'll pay you a 5x multiple because we could afford that. And this company's like, no, I'm going to wait for this XRP thing. So a company that would have been able to purchase some of these things, you're now going to see the monopolization of a ton of different areas in this crypto industry. And I think what might happen is that Veve will likely be worth billions again, like multiple billions, because of the fact that they're going to have X amount of dollars in revenue. Like, again, 550K in the month of May at a very, very, that's compared to what they were doing, that's very low. In a blow off top, and they're doing like millions per month, I think that I think that is very likely that they get, at least if not acquired for billions of dollars, they could sell maybe 10% for a nine figures. And like, what could they do with 9 figures? Like, Jesus. So I feel like I just did that whole thing, but that, I just thought of that just came to me. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I was talking to Manu about a month ago, Manu from Definity, about the mergers and acquisitions boom that's going to come, and it's going to be big. And you're just seeing the beginning of it. It's going to be a lot like the .com boom, and people were like woke up to this idea of the internet. Oh my gosh! And so companies were coming out, and all they had to have was .com behind their name, and like they would get these crazy valuations, and they'd do an IPO, and they'd make tons of money, or they'd sell their company for crazy money. And you know what? Internet ended up being a big deal. But in the short term, a lot of those companies were like crap. And I think people will wake up to crypto allows the internet to do so much good and do. And there's going to be an overboom. Whenever there's an overboom, just like the .com boom days, there's an overbust. And so I think that's going to come in valuations as well. So it'd be a great time to be selling. It'll be a bad time to be buying. Unfortunately, most people in the world will be buying. Unfortunately for us, we'll be selling in that environment.
Chosen. Okay, you're talking about the app called Vault Value. That was my bad. That was our bad. We did not understand that. The Vault Value app, I have heard many good things about it. Supposedly calculates stuff like right away. I don't know how different that is from your actual Vault Value in the actual app. I don't know if that calculates like what their algorithm is or how they go and calculate it. But I have heard great things. I haven't heard about it in quite a while. That was really big last bull run. Rain, do you have experience with that?
2022, right? I was using it to check out what my vault value was. And yeah, it was cool. It's got some inaccuracies, just like what you're saying, but it's good. It's one of the best. I mean, now they have it built right in the app that it gives you an estimate of what the value is, but I haven't looked at it since, gosh, in quite a while. The Vault Value app, it was quite a while ago. So, yeah.
Oh, using it to make a wish list and plan purchases.
Smart.
Yeah, that's a good way to track. This way, you don't have to do it in like an Excel sheet, like I do. Like, here's my wish. Oh, that would be. You know those girls that like do. They do like OnlyFans, but they also have like a link to their Amazon wish list, and it's like, that is so smart. Like, if you're in that industry anyway, like, I'm not saying it's smart to do OnlyFans. It's definitely a great way to wealth
Randy,
creation.
we should have been born hot girls, and then we could like. Can you imagine if we were born hot girls and we could talk about crypto in informed ways while having boobies and like, yeah, and then having OnlyFans on the side and then give out an Amazon wish list. So all of a sudden all your Amazon desires show up at your doorstep. That'd be amazing.
If we, and I swear this is a positive, or maybe it's not. So if we were hot women and we could, or any hot woman, if they could explain crypto the way we do, the same way that they explain the controversy between Taylor Swift being in Kansas City, but her boyfriend being in another, like if women are incredibly impressive when it comes to breaking down Taylor Swift's images, like, okay, it's 2 o'clock, in the background, the hands on the 2 and the 12, that means on December 12th or December 2nd, there's going to be a new album, or like they become like engineers mixed with like alchemy time wizards. And if they could do that with crypto, they could take over the world, and there's nothing that we could do to, like, they took over OnlyFans, like without even trying. They could 100% take over the world, and there's nothing that we could do about it. But
women can be some of the best detectives in the world. Here's how you know. If like you're single and you start dating a girl, boy, if she decides she wants to find out who you dated in your past, and like if you're dating anyone else, boy, I mean, they become the best FBI agents in the world, and they know exactly who else you've dated and everything about you when they're kind of investigating if they're like trying to become your next stalker. Like, Randy's probably got a few. They become like FBI agent super sleuths. Boy, they can solve amazing puzzles when they want to. Just like the whole Taylor Swift that you're saying. Are they generally the first into cryptos? Kelly in my audience is amazing. She's actually really good at crypto trading. It's not typical that women are interested in longer term crypto trading, but there is a small percentage of them that are. It's just not frequent.
I've had 3 stalkers. Unfortunately, 2 of them were men, but one, but one was a hot chick. Stalking me for different reasons. Anyway, there's this one thing I saw this girl break down on TikTok. It's like, okay, here's what you do. You go in and you make a new Instagram account. You follow your boyfriend's Instagram. You block every single one of the girl or everyone on his new Instagram account that he follows, so that the next time he follows someone, because they're the only one not blocked. And this is how you know the new girls. And I was like, that's true, but damn, that's wild stuff. One of my favorite things that I've seen on guy TikTok, and like how to not necessarily use your girl, but kind of use her, saying like, if you just got done watching scary videos and there's a noise outside, all you got to do is say like, bro, I told this girl to stop texting me because you're too scared to go out. Your girl will go with the bat, and she'll be like, and she'll investigate that scary noise. That is
that's so funny. That's so funny.
The guy side of TikTok is so great.
Where do you guys come up with this stuff? That's so funny. There's some truth to that. Oh my gosh. Women are territorial. So yeah.
I like that. And you could like see it too. Girl gets in your car, suddenly she like, so that they mark their territory because they know hair's gonna fall out and hair's
gonna and they'll like leave their hair ties in your car and other things, right? So they're marking their territory. Yes. Yeah. I mean, how many toothbrushes get left in your bathroom, Randy?
Well, now that I am not of my own place, I don't poop. I don't poop where I eat. But yeah, I had that a couple of times, which is fine if you're seeing one gal. But if you're not official and you're just dating, and then that happens, like, how do I tell her? What do I do? Where do I put this in the meantime?
It should have a special drawer. Oh, first world problems. First world problems.
At first, I think I was telling you my first world problem before with my blanket. It's like, oh, I don't want to put my head where my feet is, so I always make sure to put my feet on the same end.
Well, that's a lot of the content. Now, everyone is in Lisbon right now. I'm curious. Dr. Stuff is there. Crypto Cosmo is there. Curious to hear what kind of alpha is coming out of Lisbon. And man, how cool would that be, hanging with Dr. Profit and also with David and Dan. So looking forward to hearing more from that. So stay tuned next week so we can all get the update from Dr. Stuff on how that went.
And I haven't confirmed it yet, but I said to David last week, you should come on the show after Lisbon, on that next Tuesday. He said, okay. Said, okay, why? He's so cute, bro. He texted, okay. So I have to confirm with him the that he will be on next Tuesday. If not, it'll be the Tuesday after that, but hopefully it's next Tuesday.
We'll see if we can make room for him in the schedule. Love Omi is my homie.
Yeah. Well, are you going to be around the Tuesday after next?
Probably.
Okay. Cool. We'll have a special one that day too.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Sweet. Let's get this bread. Thank you.
All right, everyone. It's good to see you all, guys. These altcoins won't stay at these prices for forever. It will go the other way. See you soon.